Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
Welcome to another edition of the All Out Leadership Podcast. We are focusing on the value of stewardship and specifically how we steward the talents that God gives us. This is based on Matthew 25, verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who called his own servants, delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on his journey. So we have a responsibility to steward the talents that God gives us. You know, it's interesting how when you look at as a child, you know, the size of the clothes that you wore at 12 months is not the same clothes you're wearing at 12 and not the same clothes you're wearing at 22. You had to change your environment. You had to change the clothing as you kept growing. And as leaders, we have to keep growing and changing, you know, our environments. We have to keep and changing, and adapting into new. You know, it's interesting. I once read that a shark, if you place it, like a baby shark, if you place it in an aquarium, a small aquarium, it won't grow to its full size because it's limited by the size of its environment. And so too, our own personal growth is often limited by things that we need to change so we can keep growing. So I want to talk about how to plan for growth because, you know, it's that saying that proper planning prevents poor performance. And it's really a biblical principle. Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent surely lead to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. And so those who go, I don't have time to plan, are always the one who seem to be lacking in areas of their life. The truth is, you don't have time not to plan. And it's actually a spiritual thing to create plans. A lot of people go, well, it's not very spiritual and I'm just flowing in the Spirit. Well, I don't think anybody is more spiritual than God, yet he has a plan and a purpose. All our days are written in a book. God is all about plans. When you look at the Bible, it's the plan of salvation that was simply laid out, you know, from the beginning to end. God is very strategic with his plans. He was strategic in how he developed David. You know, young David, who's called to be king. David doesn't even know what he's called to be yet. He just thinks he's probably going to be a shepherd the rest of his life. But God allowed a lion to come. David killed that lion. Well, that was preparation for when a bear came. David killed the bear. And then ultimately that empowered him to be ready when the giant came. And so we have to be continually working on our plan to grow. Here at Element Church, something that we use inside of our staff culture is what's called an IDP. It's an individual development plan. Now, a lot of times when somebody hears, oh, an IDP, oh man, what did I do wrong? It's not that you did anything wrong. Perhaps it's maybe because you're doing a bunch of things right. We see a bunch of potential in you. So we want to come alongside you and help you become even greater. Every great athlete has a personal growth plan. Every coach going into a season has a plan on how they're developing, coaching their team, what drills they're going to go into. The most winning coaches probably have some of the greatest plans. I like what Ted Williams, the great legendary baseball player, said. He said, ball players are not born great. They're not born great hitters or pitchers or managers. And luck isn't a big factor. No one has come up with a substitute for hard work. Baseball gives every American boy a chance to excel. Again, people aren't born great. They're born babies, and babies just make messes. It's what we do to intentionally grow that really ultimately determines our success. Jesus, at 30 years of age, entered into full-time ministry, and his ministry was only 3.5 years. What's interesting is he basically prepared 10 years for every 1 year of ministry. And we want to do the opposite. We want to prepare 1 minute for every 10 years. We want God to use us. But God was very intentional, keeping his son kind of hidden, tucked away, but he didn't waste that time. Just know preparation time, development time is never wasted time. Joseph, he was 13 years in training to become the second in command, but he was in Potiphar's place. He was in prison. He was in a pit, but God used all that to prepare him. Moses was 40 years on the backside of a desert. Joshua was 40 years under Moses. Elisha was under Elijah. And so what you'll often see is God will have seasons of preparation and development, but it's never wasted time. The Chinese bamboo in its first 4 years remains only just a tiny shoot above the ground, but its fifth year it can grow up to 80 feet tall. So it can grow up to 80 feet in just 1 year. But it was growing those first 4 years, all the growth just was underground. You couldn't see it. It was building a massive root system to support what was up top. So planning, preparing, having a personal growth plan, it's never wasted time. And so next lesson, we're going to look at how God was really just grooming Jesus. We're going to learn some principles from the life of Jesus and how God will often use those same principles as he develops us.
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at eriklawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.